All right, welcome to Two Right Turns, freshman orientation, where we're getting to know all 15 mid-year enrollees in Clemson's 2026 recruiting class. And my guest right now, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Brock Bradley. I'm a quarterback and I'm number 5.
And tell us a little bit about where you're coming from.
I come from Birmingham, Alabama, Spain Park High School, and just excited to be here and ready to finally run out there in Death Valley.
The first thing Coach Sweeney said about you in his presser, and I quote, he's a winner, right? And you played at a high level, Alabama Class 6A ball. You walk out of there as the winningest quarterback in Spain Park history. You were part of a 17-game winning streak there. I mean, what similarities do you see across winning cultures?
It's something that I really pride myself in. My whole life I've tried to win in everything that I do, whether it's playing a game of chess or playing cards or playing rock paper scissors. I'm just a competitive person at heart, and it's something that I feel like I really try to work on. I'm always trying to win in whatever I do, so I think that has just kind of bled over to the football field for me.
So you talked about being competitive in everything you do. Is there any competition in this building between you and Tyler Grisham of who is the best Clemson product ever to come out of Spain Park High School in Alabama?
Definitely, yeah. There's definitely some shade that we like to throw at each other, but he was a pretty good receiver at Spain Park, and obviously went on to do great things here at Clemson and in the NFL as well. So just somebody I look up to, and it's pretty cool to have a connection from my high school. And there's also various other connections. Coach Tajh Sweeney went to Pelham High School, and obviously they're in our region down there in Alabama. So just super cool to have a lot of Alabama connections, and makes this place feel like home.
For those that haven't seen you play, stylistically, how would you describe your game?
Yeah, I think I know Coach Sweeney kind of mentioned I kind of play like Baker Mayfield. He's a guy I look to a lot to kind of model my game after, and I think I'm a throw first guy, but I can also beat you with my legs, and I've worked on my speed a lot the past couple years, and I wasn't forced to run the ball a lot in high school, but I think that's a underrated tool of my game, and look forward to showing Clemson fans what I can do on the ground as well.
And arriving here, you have a new offensive coordinator. You have Tajh Boyd elevated into a quarterback's coach role. How have you enjoyed your interactions with the staff so far?
Coach Morris has been great. It's obviously it was a quick change, signing day, and then, Coach Riley departing, and then, bringing him in was a super quick decision, but it's been really great so far. And, I've enjoyed getting to know him off the field, and, also just learning his stuff schematically. Like, he's a, mastermind, and just to, think of what he was able to do here, with Deshaun and some of those guys and Tajh, it's really cool to, see his offense, and, be able to watch tape of Tajh doing it. And then, Tajh is teaching us now how to do it. So I've really enjoyed just learning the scheme, and just super excited to, play for him.
How much value is there in being able to take coaching from a guy who literally lived it at this place, in these shoes, wearing that paw for this coach?
I think it's a huge deal. That's something I look for in my recruiting process was, I want to play for a coach who's played the position. And, there's some coaches that I've met throughout the process, and, some of them talk the talk, but, they've never been out there. So I think when you have a guy who's, played, college football at a high level, not to mention played in the system that you're playing in, it's a huge, benefit for me.
You talked about being a competitor. I mean, is that something that you were just born with? Coach Sweeney mentioned that too. Like, Brock Bradley loves to compete. The fact that you're one of 2 quarterbacks in this class, something that a lot of quarterbacks around the country just don't like to do. What is it about competition? Is that wired in your DNA, or was that a skill set you learned along the way?
I truly feel like it's wired in my DNA. My dad would even tell me when I was, this tall, we would go to football camps or, baseball camps or, playing travel ball on the weekends. And I truly just feel like it's in my blood. I'm a true competitor at heart. And I feel like that's such a big part of my game. I really pride myself in it. And at the end of the day, like, I just want to compete for the job. And there's nothing better than going head to head, with other thoroughbreds. And we have such a talented quarterback room here at Clemson, and it's been really good, just to get around the guys. And, we're all super close already, but I just can't wait to go head to head and go compete with those guys.
Well, you mentioned the room a little bit. I find it ironic. You were born in Florida, played ball in Alabama, and are now here in South Carolina. And so you join a room that has a guy from Birmingham, a guy from Florida, and Trent Pierman from South Carolina. So it seems like you're saying that the relationships with those guys have been good. How much has that accelerated your growth in your first several weeks here?
It's been huge, having guys that have kind of been around where you've been around. It obviously Tate's from Arizona, so we've learned a couple things about him, about how they do things out west, and it's just been good to kind of have like a melting pot as far as like guys from everywhere. And obviously I've got CV, who I grew up training with, ever since I was 7th and 8th grade. We kind of met when he was in high school, and we played their high school as well growing up, Briarwood. So to have him, and then also, I mess with Chris all the time because, I like to mess with him and say I claim Florida, and he didn't really like that. But, I tell him I claim the 904. And so it's good to have, those guys that have kind of been around the same places as you.
Well, I know you're serious about ball, but beyond football, during your time here at Clemson, what do you like to do away from football? And then, if and when football comes to a close, what would you like to do after that?
Yeah, as far as, what I like to do outside of football, there's not much to me. I like just kicking it with teammates and, going to places to eat around campus. I personally like to go to Greenville. It's a spot that I've been to pretty much every weekend since I've been here. So it's a lot like Birmingham. There's good restaurants and good nightlife, and so I've enjoyed kind of exploring those places. And what was the other question?
Post football career.
Yeah.
What aspirations do you have?
I've pre-business major right now, so I think I want to do marketing, and I'm kind of trying to navigate that right now. But also, coaching is something that I've kind of, thought about, and just kind of want to evaluate, where my head is, with the game as far as the relationship, and kind of evaluate when I'm done with football if I want to, keep pursuing, or if I want to get in the business field. So,
well, Brock, we want to get your followers up. Where can our fans find you on social media?
I'm Brock Bradley _5 on pretty much every social media. So,
Brock, appreciate your time, man. Welcome aboard.
Yes, sir. Thank you.